Hey everybody, welcome back. As you recall, in our last episode, we built the Vue Todo app. So it's a pretty simple app, but I had a subscriber this past week ask me how to implement pagination. So if you don't, are not familiar with pagination, so it allows you the ability to kind of click between pages. So let's say we had 100 different to-dos here. You don't want them to all show on the same page. It's not a very good user experience. You'd be scrolling down the page forever and ever trying to find them. But instead, you can add kind of numbers at the bottom here, and you could be able to click left or right, kind of go forward and backward through pages. Sometimes more advanced paginations will have like actual numbers, so it'll have like first 3 pages and then the last 3 pages you can click to. So you can make them pretty advanced. But today we're just gonna make a simple one where it allows us to page forward, page backward. And that's about it. So let's go ahead and jump into it here. Let's open up app.js. So you see we have our to-dos here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a couple more to-dos so we can kind of trigger our pagination to take effect here. And let me copy this one here. Let's try that out. So make this 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because we got to give a unique ID to each one. 10, 11, more for good luck here. Well, it's lucky number 12. And then, just so these are more readable, what I'm going to do is, using Command D, copy all of these here. And then go over, let me grab my number, holding Shift Alt, copy that, and click back here. Oops, that's gonna be a little off. That's all right, we'll get it close enough. Say to do number 3. So let me just fix this one real quick. There we go. So now we have 12 to-dos. Come back. Oop. You see that? Not a great user experience, but that's okay. We can fix that. So the next ID in the series will be 13. So we'll want to update that. Normally, if we were starting with no to-dos, we just have 0 for the next ID. We also want to set, let's say, the current page. So we need another variable in here to help us out so we know where we're at, which page. So we'll say current page is 0, and let's set a page size to 3. So maybe in a future tutorial I'll go and show you how to update the page size via like a drop down or something like that. So you can change how many show per page, whether it be 5 or 10, 25, 50. If you want to see 100, whatever, it's good for you. Now what we need to do, let's probably create, let's see, this visible to-dos. Make this an array. And so what'll go in here will be the ones we're going to actually show on the page. So we're going to kind of update little slivers of it at a time and say, like, from all of our to-dos, render these visible to-dos. So that's looking pretty good so far. Next, what we'll want to do is we need a method to kind of update the to-dos. So let's make one call it visible to-dos. Let's call it update visible to-dos. There we go. And what we want to do in here is we'll say this dot visible to-dos is equal to this dot to-dos dot, we'll take a slice of it, and we'll say it's this dot current page times this dot page size. So if you recall, slice will grab a section of an array for you. So the first parameter is kind of the starting index. So our starting index is we want to take the page size, multiply it times the current page. So if we're on page 2 and our page size is 3, that means we want to start at index 6 to start showing 2 pages in there. or take that back. Current page will be 1 because we start on page 0. A little tricky when you do the 0 page index, but you'll see what I'm saying here in a second. So we'll say this dot current page, so we'll kind of repeat this here, times this dot page size. Oop, I messed that up. And then we want to say plus this dot page size. And that way it'll go to the index we want to stop at. So we just want to stop at plus the page size. So it's the same thing plus page size. And also what we want to do is if there are no visible to-dos, we want to prevent ourselves from going backwards too far and go negative pages. So we'll say if we have 0 visible to-dos, we'll go back a page. Go back a page. Not page size, a page. So in the case where we start removing to-dos, popping them off, so we remove to-dos, we pop them off, and they're none on the page. You don't want to be stuck on a page that has no to-dos. You just want to automatically page it back to the previous page. So make this a little fancy here, and we'll say if this dot visible to-dos dot length equals 0, and this dot current page is greater than 0, so we don't want to go back too many pages. Or if we're on the 0 page, we don't want to go back too far. We'll say this dot update page, which will be a function we'll create here. We'll say this dot current page minus 1. So as you saw, we probably need another function here called update page. And it'll take a page number. And in here, we'll say this dot current page equals the page number we pass in. And then after we do that, we need to kind of trigger the visible to-dos to show on the page, right? So we're paging to the next page. So we'll say this dot update visible to-dos. So we can reuse that function. Also, what we want to do is whenever we add a to-do, we probably want to update, say this dot update visible to-dos. And we'll do the same when we remove a to-do. Boom, perfect. So that way if we start removing to-dos, it'll start crunching them down until we run out. And then we probably want to put a Lifecycle hook in, which will go, let's put it right after components here. So Lifecycle hooks are different functions that get triggered at different points when the page is rendering. So there's one here that's called before mount, which is a function, which calls a function, which we will specify what we want to do, which we want to update our visible to-dos, because initially they are an empty array. Now let's go to app.vue, and on app.vue, so we have our to-do item here. Let me go ahead, update this here. So for to-do and to-dos, but we're going to change this. We'll say visible to-dos, because we only want to render the ones that are currently in the view there. And we also say v-bind visible to-dos to visible to-dos. And then also want to do the same thing but for current page. I'm know why it keeps putting those spaces there. Let's see. Cool. So that should do that there. Perfect. So I think our app is just showing the first page right now. Exactly. So let's inspect here. Use that view component here. So sure, visible to-dos is an array of 3, and we have our first 3. Perfect. I wish you could change it from here. Seems like you should be able to. There's probably a way. But anyways, so that's great. So everything's working so good so far. Now let's actually add in the pagination portion. So we need to create a couple new files. So new file, say pagination.vue. Create another one called pagination.js. And another one called pagination.css. I don't have much to put in the CSS, but we'll see here in a second. So in our pagination.vue, we want to put in here, so we got to start with the template tag. Nope, that's not what we want. You just want to render the CSS, not CSS, HTML template, /template. So everything between there will be rendered. And then we'll say div, we'll give this a class of pagination wrapper. And we want to only render this if, we'll make a function called total pages is greater than 0. So we don't want to show any of this. We're going to hide it if we have less than, or we only have 0 page. If we have 0 pages, we're not going to show any toggling, right? This would be pointless. So now we'll go span, say class, and we'll set this to say pagination button for right now. And we can do the same thing here. So I want to do a couple of things here. We'll say, so this will be our pointer to go previous page, and this is the pointer to go to our next page. And on there, we'll need to update, let's say we only want to show this one, vif. We'll make a function called show previous link, which will return true, false, to let us know whether or not we should render. And then if we go v on, click, doing this wrong, v on, click equals, we'll say let's update the page, and we'll pass in the current page -1. So we want to go backwards a page, right? So that looks good. So now pretty similar for this one. Say vif, say show next link, and we'll say v on click. We want to update the page. Say current page +1. So let me go ahead and update this one here. Current page -1. And then in between, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll do, we want to show how many pages, like page 101 to, page 2 of 3. So say current page. Since we're using a 0 index, this is where it gets a little weird. Let's say +1. So if we're on page 0 of the index, we actually want to just show it as page 1, so it looks more human readable. So say page of, we're using this interpolation here, total pages. So that way I'll show page 1 of 1 page. if there's only one page. And then down here, we're going to go script source equals, say, /pagination.js. Script, we'll do the same for style. Source equals /pagination.css /style. All right, it's looking good. Now we need to implement a couple of things here. Pagination.js is probably what we want to do. So for Pagination.js, what we want to do is we want to go export default, and we'll say name equals pagination. So we'll name our component. We'll say props, what's going to get passed in. We'll say we need the to-dos, probably so we can do a count on them. We'll need the current page, and we want to know the page size to help us kind of render that stuff out. And then we'll have some methods, which we described in our page there. And for these, we'll go ahead and we'll do update page. And that'll take a page number. And when we do this, we want to probably emit an event so our app.js can know that we're going to the next page or previous page. So we'll say this dot emit, we'll say page, and what are we doing on the page? We're updating the page. I think that makes sense to kind of make it like that, but you can make this string whatever you want. And then we'll say page number is what we're going to pass for the value. So we're saying, hey, we have a new event, which is a page update, and here's your page number that we're going to send. Then we want a function called total pages. And from here, what we're going to do is, because the pages, you could, if we just did the basic math, right? Like we did this dot todos dot length divided by this dot page size. Seems like that would work, right? The problem you're going to get is that you take the total to-dos divided by the page size, you make it like 3.3333 for the total pages, but that doesn't make sense to show 3.33. So what we want to do is we want to take the ceiling. So there's a function called math.ceil. And what that'll do is round up. So if we get 4.33, that means we have 4 pages. There'll just be 1 on the last page if our page size is 3. So that makes sense. And then we had a show previous link, which here we'll say return this dot current page. Say if it equals 0, we're going to return false. Otherwise, we'll return true. So this is called ternary operation. So it's a shorthand for writing an if-else statement. If you haven't seen that before, we'll say show next link. Just kind of handy, so you don't have to write out everything. And then we'll do kind of a similar thing here. We'll say return this dot current page equals this dot total pages, which we're calling our function, minus 1. So if this current page equals the total pages minus 1, because we're using that 0 index, so you got to kind of offset it there, we'll say false. Otherwise, we'll return true, that we are going to show the next link button on the page. Perfect. So now we need to probably include, what do we need to do? Okay, so app.js, probably want to include, oh, actually, let's go update that CSS real quick. A small fix there that you'll appreciate. Otherwise, you hover on it right now, because we put those arrows, the way the arrows are going to come out, when you hover, it's going to show you kind of the cursor, like this one you see on page right now, where it's going to like select the text, but we don't want that. We want it to look kind of like a regular pointer or something like that. So what we can do is we have that class. It was a pagination button. And so there's a property called cursor, and we say the cursor type will be pointer. So that way when we hover, it doesn't look like we're selecting text. It looks like we're actually pointing and clicking on something. So I think it'll come out, probably look like a hand. So let's go back to app.js now. And we're gonna want to import pagination from components / pagination.vue. And then the components, we need to add it there. Pagination. Perfect. Where else do we need to add it? Oh, of course, in the app view, because we have some props and stuff we got to pass into it. So we want to actually render this on page. So right after to do item, get rid of that there. So we want to pass it in right here. And so we'll say pagination. Pagination what we want to do actually, a couple things we want to do in here. We actually want to bind to-dos as we pass them in. I think that's what I want to do. To-dos equals to-dos. We also want to say v-on, we'll say page update. So you remember that event emitter we created? So when we hear that, we want to call the function update page that we have set in our app.js. And then we're going to say vbind to current page. Say current page. And we'll say vbind page size. So we're going to pass that in as well. So pass that in as a property there. I think that'll work. Let's see. We're not showing it currently. I figured it out. So I was missing total pages because it's not actually returning anything. We just did all the math, but we didn't actually return it. So that should fix it. Let me also add some spacing here. Now, if we come over here, boom. So you see we have pages 1 of 5, and we can click, close this out. We can click through, get to our last page. If I remove, it should kick us back a page, and it does. Perfect. We can remove, keeps going back. Go back to page 1. We'll just start removing these. And we're on page 101, and nothing. We can start adding them. Just keep adding them. Still on page 1. New test. Page 1 of 2. Boom. And we go to the next page. So how neat is that? So in what, 10 minutes or so, we just built our own hand-rolled pagination from scratch. I think it's pretty sweet. So as a future step, if you want, add a drop down of some sort to say select page size, or maybe put it in the top corner. I would love to see your guys' work and add on to this project. I'm going to have this on GitHub. I'm going to have it under a branch called Pagination. So if you go to my GitHub, I'll have the link in the description below. But you can actually check out the project and see kind of the before, and then go check out Pagination. And that'll check out the Pagination branch, and you can see all these changes there. Or you can just follow along in the video and code it yourself and actually see it in action. But that's all for now. So if you guys have any questions, want to see more tutorials in Vue.js, React, Angular, you name it, Elixir, Ruby on Rails, anything, please leave a comment below. Love your feedback, and please like and subscribe. Thanks, guys. Take care.